Welcome friends. In this video we will see how we can work with multiple repositories. Those are residing maybe on the same repository provider or maybe on the different repository providers, and maybe one is your locally deployed repository. So in this case we will see how we can work with two repositories, but we can work with more than two repositories also. So let's start with looking at what we have done so far. We have checked out the code on our local system using this Git extensions tool. The code is here, we can see it here. And this code we have also pushed onto Git concepts repository that is residing on GitHub. We see that these exactly two files are there. And if you remember, in the previous videos we created one repository on Bitbucket also that is also named the same Git concepts, but we see there is only one file because we have not pushed any changed, we have not pushed any commit to this repository so far. How to do this and how to synchronize these two repositories to have same code. This is the topic of this video. So what we need to do is we click on the clone repository here and we will choose HTTPS method that is by default available, and we need to copy this URL from here and go to our Git extensions tool. We right click on remotes and say manage. We see that one of the repository is already added, that is belonging to GitHub. So to identify it more specifically, we can rename it, and for example I am saying it to be GitHub. And now we add another remote repository here that is belonging to Bitbucket, and we paste the URL that we have just copied and save changes. It is asking that new remote is being added. Are you sure? And I will say yes. So what this tool is doing, it is calling a fetch command on Git command line tool to fetch everything that is residing on Bitbucket repository, that is this one. Let's see how it looks like in the Git extensions tool when we have done with this. So we see there are two remotes added, one is from GitHub and one is from Bitbucket. Let's close this. And if we look at the commit history here now, we see GitHub is here, all the changes are here, and Bitbucket changes are here. So if I click here, in the file tree tab, I see only readme.md file. That is because we have only one file here, readme.md, in Bitbucket repository. But in GitHub repository, we have two files. And if I click here at the head where GitHub repository is pointing to, I see two files. Okay. And if we want to synchronize, what I mean by synchronize, I need to have this same code and this same commit history on this repository as well. If we see the commits, there is only one commit, initial commit, but we have progressed a lot in this repository. So to transfer all these changes to this repository, what we can do in this tool is we are here right now on this head, and we can be sure that we are here by looking at this bold lettered option. We are sure that we are currently pointing to this change. We say push, and instead of pushing it on GitHub repository, because GitHub is already pushed, as we have discussed, that red thing is pointing to our local changes and green thing is pointing to the remote repository. We have two remotes in this case. One is GitHub remote and another is Bitbucket remote. So on GitHub remote, we have already pushed the code, and that's why we see this red and green thing together. But this is lagging. This is far behind the commit history, and we need to make it here. So we are now trying to push the changes on Bitbucket repository. Here the URL is also filled up, and then we say push. If we are doing it first time, it may ask for our username and password. And it is pushed. So if we say OK, we see that GitHub, Bitbucket, and our local, all the pointers are now pointing to the same thing. And that is the last change that we have made, added print tuck method. We can verify this by going to the web console of this Bitbucket repository and looking at the source code. We now see that there are two files. Those are exactly present on this repository here. These two files. And if we see at the commits, these commits are exactly the same. Those we did on the GitHub repository. As we see here, these commits are now exactly present here. So what we did, we pushed our full commit history from one of the repository to another repository, and now we have two remotes. Those are Bitbucket and GitHub. So this is how we work with multiple repositories. And now let's do a small change here. I just copy this method and try to add another method, and we can say print peacock, and I will print peacock in this, and then we call print peacock method here. We try to execute it in order to be sure that the file is compilable and not having any error. So I see that this file is good now, and we go to this Git extensions tool again, and we see this that one file is changed and it is not committed to the repository. So I will try to commit it. In order to commit it from unstaged area, I will pull this file to the staged one. I see that these are the changes that I have done into the file, and I put a commit message. So we have a commit history here. Whatever messages we have provided earlier is stored in the commit history. We can choose from one of the message, and I can customize the message exactly what I want to do here, what I am doing here. So the commit messages, it is very useful if we put the commit messages to be intuitive in order to know that what change was made in this particular commit. So we say commit, and now we have committed, and the red thing is always our local thing. So this change is right now in our local system, not in the GitHub, not in the Bitbucket. But we can push this change one by one first to GitHub, and now this local change is present on GitHub repository. We can verify it here. We don't need to always verify it because it's working fine, but in order to show you our change is present here, if we go to the commit history, we see that this is the commit that we have just made. But if we see it here, I will refresh this page. So Peacock method is not present yet on the Bitbucket repository. How to do that? We can push this change to Bitbucket repository. And now all the changes are available on each of the repository, GitHub and Bitbucket. Let's verify it. If I refresh this page again, this Peacock change is present here. We go to the source and verify git concepts.java file. We see that our change is present in this repository. So this way we know that how to work with multiple repository. What is the benefit? The benefit is if one of your repository goes wrong or goes down, you are still having a backup on the second of the repository. There is also another use case that many people maintain a central repository that is always the current release that is working in working conditions, and another repository is used for developer purposes. So it depends on the use case, but here in this video what we learned is that how we can add more remotes. In other words, how we can work with multiple repositories using this tool called Git extensions. If you understand the concepts, it is well and good. If you don't understand and have doubts, you can always ask in the comment section and I will try to answer these as soon as possible. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. We will meet in the next video and see the later concepts.